Brantingham, the big Sloop John B, aka the head of the creative writing department, or the head creative writing at Mount Sac, one of the co-founders of the San Gabriel Lit Festival, one of the co-founders of California Images Gallery, as well as what we really want to get to first. That you are the former poet laureate of Sequoia and Kings Canyon.
Yeah, they're two different national parks that are kind of run together.
All right, so tell us about what went into being the poet laureate of these two national parks, as well as yeah. We'll start there. What was that like? What does that program exactly entail?
Yeah, and I'm still doing it. It's just the tenure just has a life cycle, and it's over now. But I'm still doing all the same work. But basically, it's I guess I started doing that work about 8 years ago, and it was my desire to get people up into the woods who never really could get up there for one reason or other, just either socially hadn't been introduced to it, or they didn't have the funds to get up there, that sort of thing. So, and I also want to bring people who had never experienced writing in the parks up there as well. So we started doing programs that did those two things. People come up for a week, and we write, and we hike, and I show them the woods. People come up there, and they are, they're afraid of it because they've watched horror movies, or there's some sort of, like you've got bad history or something like that. And or if you played video games and you've played a video game and you run into a bear, the bear is just this godless eating machine that just wants to destroy you. And then go up there and you see a bear, and it's like, oh, okay, the bear is just an animal trying to get through his day. So yeah. So I started bringing people up, started writing about the forest. I started seriously writing about the forest. I'd always written about it, and they just wanted me to have a more direct role. And so the poet laureate of Sequoia and Kings Canyon. I will always be the first poet laureate of Sequoia and Kings Canyon.
No one can take that away from you. I want to talk more about that in a minute, but you mentioned the Blair Witch Project, and I'm curious. I know that you are doing a number of Zooms and a number of the different applications. Have you got to the point yet where you're like, your own independent Blair Witch director, like you're grabbing your phone, like, in the middle? It has to be like on the second day,
I'll teach and I'll teach to like 30 people at a time on Zoom, and sometimes they're all dark. All of their things, they don't want the camera, which I totally get. But I feel like a late night host. It's like on the radio, it's like, okay, we have an idea about thesis statements. Cindy in screen 4, what do you have to say? It's bizarre though. I've been doing. I know a lot of my colleagues are doing completely asynchronous classes, and I get that. But I've been doing synchronous classes as well, and because of my population, I'm kind of required to. And so it's been interesting.
Yeah. It's definitely been interesting for a lot of us. So back to the work you're doing right now with the national parks. So let's say someone signs up for this program, start to finish. What are we looking at? They get involved, and what are they looking at?
They're coming up on a Sunday, and we hang out on Sunday and just kind of talk and get them used to the forest. The first thing I do is I teach them how to chase bears out of the camp. That's number one. Now, we're talking, I don't know how wide your spread is. We're talking about California black bears. Don't try that with a grizzly bear. Don't try that with others. But with a California black bear, you keep your camp clean. And when they come into your camp, you chase them out, right? And if you don't do that, we're not worried about you. We're worried about the bear eventually being killed. Because the bear who has to eat, something like 20,000 calories a day, then becomes realizes that humans have a lot of food, and they want to come close to humans, and they will destroy property. They will not typically attack a person. It's just so rare, it's unheard of. But they'll destroy property, and that will get them killed by the bear patrol. And that's the big worry. That's the big concern.
Right. So you're saying this is the California black bear?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is very important, because we don't want bears to get killed. We don't want that to happen. But it's really kind of important that we were able to know what is the physical distinction between the California black bear and a grizzly bear. I know the answer might seem fairly obvious, but
no, that's good. Very good question.
Kind of stuff here. So yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So let's go back 50,000 years. 50,000 years ago, there were grizzly bears and black bear both in California. And then people came and we started to, and the grizzly bear was 1,200 pounds. It was a big, big, big animal, right? And it was we call those brown bears, even though they're not really necessarily brown, right? But they're these just big hulking things. Probably what you've seen in television is you almost always a grizzly bear. And so the thing that attacked Leonardo DiCaprio was a grizzly bear, right? The black bear is very often about 180 pounds. It's much smaller. It has a slightly different shape that would be hard to explain. The shoulders are mostly what the difference, because it's got to keep doesn't have to keep its head up. They can get much bigger than that. They can get up to, I think, 700 pounds or something. But they were a food source for the grizzly bear, right? They're not a predator; they're a prey animal. And so you'll see them, and they see you. And the thing I always think of is like they have a natural fear of us, in the same way that we kind of have a natural fear of a lizard. Like if I saw a 50-pound lizard and it was kind of acting crazy and kind of like, I would stay. I could probably beat that lizard, but I'm not going to try. And if it starts being aggressive, that's about the reaction they have to you. Yes, they're stronger and they're about 4 times bigger than you, but they're freaking out when they see it, because there are things about that lizard that freak me out, and the things about us that freak them out, right? We've got our eyes to the front of our heads like a predator. We've got we smell like predators. We smell like we eat meat. There's just a number of cues they're going to get. As soon as they see us, they're like, "Oh crap, there's one of those things again," right? And if you just kind of yell at it, it runs. Now the grizzly bear, you're not going to mistake for the black bear, because it's so much bigger, right? It's just this giant thing. The image that people have of bears immediately disappears as soon as they see a bear in California, because they go, "Oh, okay, this is not something to be afraid of." And what happens every single time is everybody just gets kind of hushed, and they'll watch it, and it's just a kind of a beautiful thing to watch. Like I don't know. What's another, like watching a sunrise or something? It's not scary. It's just powerful.
Yeah. What are some animals that people think are you probably shouldn't touch any animals. I mean, honestly, and just you can touch other people without really kind of figuring that association out. But I think people oftentimes have a certain idea about deer, and that leads to horrible injury. So can you tell people not to touch deers?
Yeah. People will see deer, and they there's different mythology of deer. What you have to remember about a deer is that there are an animal that doesn't want to be touched, and they're afraid of you. So people will come up, and we have mule deer mostly in California. You walk up and touch you, and they'll kick you like a mule, and they'll hit you in the stomach, and they can disembowel you. So it's not they're more dangerous than bear. It's that more people go up and touch them, and so I think they're by far more deadly. Not just because they jump in the road and get hit by cars and things like that, but because like people go up and try to grab them, or they'll try to get a close camera shot or something like that. The selfie thing is killing people in the wild. What kills people in the wild, in California at least, is water and gravity. And so people will try to get close to the waterfall, and they'll fall in, they'll slip in, because those rocks are really slippery, right? And the water's just above freezing. And like you go in and you have 40 seconds or something if you don't hit your head. And then people will try to get shots close to geographic formations, like we've heard of people dying near Half Dome and that sort of thing. It's tragic, and that's the thing to be aware of, really.
Yeah. So, in your professional opinion, as an expert on these things, would you recommend better that we have deploy selfie sticks, or should we just slow down and enjoy our lives?
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm not an expert in much, but I think slowing down and enjoying your life is a pretty good idea, right? The selfie stick, you're never going to capture what the place looks like anyway. And besides that, okay, so you're out in the middle of the woods, and you're surrounded by mountains and just granite, and you look over there and you can see across the thing. There's this granite face with that's cut, like it's got striations like that's cut, and the reason it was cut is boulders were being pushed along by glaciers 1,000 feet up, right? And oh my God, and there's no way you're going to get a touch of that. And then you hear a grouse call, and the grouse is the dubstep of the forest. it's kind of, ooh, 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 ooh. And then you get all this stuff going on at once, and you get the waterfalls and everything, and then you take a picture that's like that. There's no way that captures that moment. Much better just to kind of enjoy the moment you're there.
Yeah.
Somebody told me a statistic, and I don't know that I believe it, but it's something that you could believe. That the average visit to Grand Canyon now, whatever their big monument is, the big place where everybody goes, is 2 minutes, which is the amount of time you need, or 10 minutes, the amount of time you need to get out of your car, go over, take a selfie, get back in the car, and leave. I don't know that I believe that. I don't want to believe that. But yeah, and I'm with Gina. I don't know. I don't understand risking life for a selfie either. It's absolutely crazy. And the selfie, what do you get when you get it? It's like, huh. It's like, look, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, so you are you're a prolific artist. You have many books of collections of poetry as well as books on writing theory of but you are also an authentic man of the woods. Can you speak to the inaccuracies prevalent in the music video by one Justin Timberlake, "Man of the Woods"?
Yeah. Okay. I've only seen it once, and that was with you.
Yeah.
And it was a horror show. I believe at one point that he's chopping wood. But like what you do when you chop wood is you get a block, like a stump, and that helps to stop your axe from falling, right? And you don't chop through the stump because it's too hard. It just keeps your axe blades sharp. And you put a piece of wood on top of that. But he's got a scene where people are chopping, but there's no wood. There's only stump, right? Okay. And then I think he passes through 3 geographical areas. He's got High Sierra, he's got Desert Southwest, and he's got something else within 2 minutes, and he's just kind of wondering. And his wife's wearing a summer dress, and he's got flannel on. And it's like, okay, one of you's cold or the other one's sweaty. I don't know which is what's going on. There's a whole lot wrong with that. And God, what the geographical thing is one that bothered me the most. It's like, what the fuck are you doing in the Grand Canyon now? You were just in the High Sierra. You go in one door and out the other. And of course, that's not just to say just the stereotype of the people wandering through the woods, which as coming from a family of hillbillies, I found kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Another clumsy appropriation by Justin Timberlake. another sad episode in the life of Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
Another shameful episode, we should say, because I'm sure he was happy about it. But
I've enjoyed much of the things that he did with Andy Samberg.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. He brought much joy with those. So if someone were to kill a rat improperly, kill a rodent improperly, that leads to a landslide.
Yeah, that's a whole lot. I'm not going to be able to connect all the dots. But the big thing is you don't poison a rat, right? Poisoning a rat leads to a whole continual thing because the rat goes off someplace and dies, and then is eaten by a predator, which goes off and dies. And suddenly we've got another scavenger eats that body, and suddenly we've got an imbalance in the ecosystem, and all of this creates a rise in the birds, which are helping to seed the hillsides. And if they're seeded improperly, then you get shallow roots in the root system, which means there's nothing holding on to those things. So sometimes you'll see hillsides in Malibu go down. And that can be at least exacerbated by the fact that a rat has been poisoned, right? Or several rats have been poisoned. And it can also lead to the death of urban mountain lions, which if you didn't know that mountain lions are in the city, they are. Mountain lions are, you probably passing mountain lions every once in a while in the city, just walking down the street. Mountain lions do not want to attack people though, because mountain lion, like a bear, like any other animal, is not a Viking and is not looking for an honorable death through combat. Just wants to have some food, right?
Right.
Like, there's a very large animal that will wound me, and if I'm wounded, I'm probably dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right over there's a bird. Like, I'm going to get the bird, Just in the same way, if I'm going through the forest without a weapon and I want to eat, well, I can attack a raccoon or I can grab some berries, and it's not all that hard a math problem for me.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that last one threw me off my question. The last thing you said threw me off where I was going to go next. Okay, Los Angeles Metropolitan has approximately 15. No, wait, let me. I looked up this number here. Has
15.
approximately just shy of 13 million people living in LA Metro, right?
Yeah.
Los Angeles Metropolitan is essentially a desert, and it gets its water from the Owens Valley through the Colorado Rockies, right? Is this unsustainable? Is this a good idea?
No, we actually get our water in a number of ways. And I only know this because a friend of my friend's husband, I guess he's my friend too, is the water guy for Riverside.
Okay.
But it's like, okay, so we get it from the Owens Valley, we get it from, which gives us a little bit, mostly in San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. And we get a little bit from Colorado. We get a lot from Colorado. We also get some just from water runoff. And in fact, this is just when I found this out, it blew me away. When a drop of water falls on the mountains, it's likely to pass through three people before it hits the ocean because we've become so good at reclaiming and cleaning and re-releasing, so that it goes like, okay, so there's water sanitation plants up in say San Bernardino. There's a couple of them, and they clean the water and they release it back into, it evaporates or whatever it's going to do, and it not evaporates it. They clean it and they put it back in the Santa Ana River, and somebody then in Anaheim will get it, and then same thing, and somebody will get it in Huntington Beach, which is an extraordinary kind of thing to do. It's a little bit gross, but only if you think if you think water passing through people is gross, you have to realize that we've never had any new or old water. It's all the same water being recycled. Your water passed through, whatever,
Yeah.
however many people. But it is, yeah, and it becomes not even gray anymore, Abraham. It's just it's reused and reusable, and and it is. Well, you just threw me off there. But you're right. I mean, we're living in an area that doesn't support this many people. But we're living in a world that doesn't support 7 billion, and I we need something to. It's easy to say reduce the population. It's a harder thing to do, and it's certainly a hard thing to do. It's kind of a ridiculous thing for a rich person to say that, right? Because who are we talking about reducing? And I think there's only one real way to reduce population, and that's to create hope for people, create business opportunities, create um, create possibility, create educational programs, create a world in which people don't feel like tomorrow might be my last day, therefore I should just go out and have whatever pleasure that I can get right now. That's what truly leads to population and overcrowding, right? When you have hope, you have something to do. Now, what do we do about Los Angeles? I don't know. I have now been at home for 2 months and I've been working full time, and I can continue doing this. And if they allow me to, I might move out of LA in the future. If my job allows me to move to someplace more sustainable, go back to Pennsylvania, I don't know, or maybe up to closer to the High Sierra. Uh, and I think we've just been wandering around, walking around outside, looking at what traffic looks like, whatever. It's like, okay, so it's not good that we have COVID, but maybe we can all live more simply after this. Maybe we can we've got computer systems that are obviously really, really good now that could create for a more sustainable environment. Should I be, I live fairly close to work in terms of Los Angeles. I live in Ontario and I work in Walnut. I'm still commuting an hour a day and burning a bunch of gas and a bunch of things unnecessarily, it turns out. I've been able to teach. I haven't had hardly anybody drop any of my classes since we've gone online. One class has gotten a little bit low, but that always happens. There's always one class that gets a little bit low.
Yeah,
Most
yeah,
of my classes are just full to capacity.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's interesting when people talk about like population decreasing. It usually always takes on a pretty racist eugenicist
Yeah.
kind of idea. But I would point out that Europe is far more overcrowded than Africa, and
Mm-hmm.
that the average British person has about 10 times the size of the carbon footprint of the average Ghanaian. Like I looked this up once, and so like it's actually if anywhere needs to if any any place in the world needs to reduce its population, it's actually Western Europe. I mean, it's
Western Europe and the United States,
United
and
States.
we need to live more simply.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
absolutely. There's no question.
Well, we
And
need fewer plastic bottles for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So what I would say, what I would ask now, so I'm going to transition out of it and make a smooth transition. You are, you're over at Mount Sac. You were the head of the English department. You're now just kind
No,
of.
I've never been. I've just always run the creative writing programs.
I'm giving
From
you credit you don't have, so because
yeah,
I apologize for being so generous. Uh, in my praise of you. We strive for accuracy here, not facts, not feelings. You snowflake. All right.
also, I would hate that job. So it's just awful.
So you've taken a leading role though in the creative writing program,
Yeah.
and you've really built up Mount Sac. You've really built this particular festival, but a lot of things out of Mount Sac that people kind of like think about Mount Sac is kind of a destination for local writers and for writers actually from around the country and even internationally. Um, what was the process like? What been going from like okay, I'm here, I'm working here, why not Mount Sac, and to where it is now?
Yeah, well, in the '90s, well, in the '80s, I lived in West Covina. I grew up in West Covina, right? And in the '90s, I wanted to study creative writing, so I felt that I had to leave because what is there in the San Gabriel Valley or the Inland Empire in the '90s that I could go to? So first went to London and then to Long Beach, and I went to study at Long Beach State, which I love. I love what they do at Long Beach State, and I thought about staying in Long Beach, and I think many people have from my class and from that whole generation. Just a great place to be. But I didn't. I also felt that like, okay, why don't we have anything in the Inland Empire, San Gabriel Valley? So I was lucky. I was very lucky to land a job at Mount Sac. But once I did that, it's like, well, what do I want to do here? Every professor should be, every full-time professor should be giving a lot outside of the classroom. And there are a number of things I could do badly because I could work for the union, and I think I'd probably ruin the union then because I'm not good at negotiating. Or I helped to run honors for a little while, not terribly successfully, but the thing that I really know and I love is creative writing and creative writing programs. And I'd been running readings for years. So I thought, well, let's just bring this here and we'll do it here. And we can make this a destination for students. And we'd had other creative writing professors, and there certainly are preceding me great professors who were still there. We just needed somebody to start to organize it. And I started doing that, and we started building up our class offerings. And we went usually, when I started, we would usually have to cancel the class due to poor enrollment. And now it's like there's always, you can't add enough people into the classroom, they go away. So I'm really proud about that. And I like to think of Mount Sac as a true community college, right? We are there for the community. Yes, part of that is to help students transfer to the other campuses, but a big part is just there for community involvement. And so we started bringing writers there. There's been a program to bring writers since 1940 something, right? But we started focusing on how we're going to do that, try to get them all there together and raise as much money as we can to bring them there. And we were able to increase the number of people there, diversify the type of writers who are coming in. So it's not all just like, the typical people you'd expect, but it's writers that represent all different sorts of parts of Los Angeles, California, and the world. And so that's been my big passion for a long time there. And I loved it. And I've got people that I'm working with who are just absolutely best. Like Lloyd Aquino is a huge part of that, and Robert Peloso, and Dan Wheeler just started. And so we're really building and trying to support like our other great creative writing professors like Sid Bartman. I think everybody in LA knows Sid Bartman. She's just fantastic. And if I can support her and bring her some more writers, that's the best thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. A lot of people wouldn't associate a community college with putting on this event that attracts not just the local writers, like local. I mean that's kind of like the community aspect of it. That's really it's a beautiful thing, but it's not surprising. But you've been able to get poets from Seattle to come, or writers or story writers from Seattle, from these different parts of the country, and even a major poet from Canada
Yeah.
to come to kind of be a regular feature at at this event. How was it that you were able to do that? I mean, was there anything about the community college structure that made that more challenging, or was it less challenging, or is it just a myth that exists in people's minds?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a myth. And yeah, we've had people from Europe come. We've had Asian writers we've got as far as we can get. It's, all the writers I can get, I'm going to get. And we've got a couple advantages we've got a couple advantages at Mount SAC. One is we are in Southern California, and a lot of people will, in the middle of winter, that's when you make your ask. So, would you like to come to LA in late April, right when it's going to be still be just really cold, and they're willing to go. We also we have a little bit of money. We don't have the kind of money that university is going to have for that, but we do have enough to get them there and pay their way. And then we've got all these other colleges nearby. And very often I can say, okay, come here and I'll pay you this much. I'll pay you enough to get here. And then this is how we got David Caddy from England, right? I mean, he wanted to come, but also it's got to be, it can't be a financial burden to him. So I paid, basically gave enough money for airfare, and then he was able to teach at all these other places and do reading to make a profit. And so it's really good. We've got a really close knit creative writing community in the LA area, and so like Whittier College is a great place for writers to go, and it's pretty close, right? So you can then send them there. And Long Beach has taken a couple of our writers, and it's pretty close. So yeah, so there's been a couple of things. And then a lot of people have relatives in this area, so they're just kind of passing from one area to the next, and they say, well, okay, well, let's set up a reading for you when you're here anyway.
Yeah.
That's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. You mentioned Whittier College. Scott Creeley was teaching there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Scott is a Mount SAC alum, a Long Beach alum, and he teaches at Whittier College. And from what I hear, he's one of the really just great professors. I've heard only good things about him there. He works there, and he works at Chapman, and so now we've got a couple of partners through him. And he's part of the San Gabriel Valley Lit Fest. He's one of my closest friends. I've known him for I don't know how long I've known him. I guess since he came wandering into my class with a mohawk and an infinity scarf. You know, he no longer rocks either of those, but
I bet he would. So Scott Creeley and you are major. I mean, I've known Scott for a long time, but I'm not gonna tell the audience how, because it's none of their business. But but I've known Scott for many years. But you and Scott, I reconnected with Scott, and he invited me to this San Gabriel kind of thing. So tell us more about the San Gabriel Lit Festival, how it got started, who's involved.
yeah. So that was another thing. Scott was a local guy. I'm not sure where he grew up, probably Upland or something, but he went to Damien High School in San Dimas, and he was just kind of part of this Inland Empire, San Gabriel Valley thing. And he too had to leave, right? And then, like, we want to do something that is literary. We get in the car and we drive to Pasadena, like to downtown LA or to Long Beach or something. It's like, oh. And so he and I and Elder Zamora and my wife, we decided to form the literary festival, and it was both monthly and once a year. We have this big sort of festival where we'll gather as many writers as we could. And we did it, the first year we did it in the West Covina City Hall, and that was a fantastic nightmare. It was it was so big. There were so many different things going on at once, and unless we are going to form a nonprofit that actually pays us, there's no way we can sustain that. So we moved to the Daw Center of the Arts in Pomona, and which was and has been a really great partner for us. They're just amazing. And the Daw has done so many great things for so many people. And I know you're there, and what Corey does is just amazing. I can't imagine anybody doing anything better than what Corey does with dim lights for those kids who go there. It's just extraordinary, right? That guy gives kids hope. I mean, it's just amazing. And then we've been recently. I've moved into a loft gallery space in Ontario, and recently we've been doing it here, and we were really getting a big head of steam and getting a lot of people coming in, and making a lot of. We were all sitting all close together and like pushing up against each other and sneezing. Yeah, and so like we're not doing that right now.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have some summer programming online. I'm not sure. I need to see how Sequoia is going to go this summer. I either am or am not going to be in Sequoia this summer, and I don't know. Which I really hope that I'm going. But if not, maybe I'll be doing some stuff here online.
So with the California Imagism, you've actually you've actually migrated some of the work you were intending to do, face to face and hand to hand, onto the internet. So can you tell us a little about what that one what are you doing, and then secondly, like what's similar, what's different?
Yeah, well, we were going to have I'm pointing to the room that you can't see. I've got this big classroom, and it's much bigger than my classroom at Mount Sac. It's maybe twice the size. Could pretty easily fit 60 people in here, and we have. And so what we wanted to use this place for was this big classroom in part, and so that we could teach memoir, fiction, poetry. I would like to build this program into a sort of alternative for an MFA. A lot of people who take the MFAs end up spending a lot of money on that, but they don't really have the kind of need for it that they would need for a traditional MFA. So I don't want it to be formal. I know it's not going to replace any MFA, but there are a lot of people who just want to take classes in the arts. And there's a lot of professors nearby who really believe they'd love to just teach people classes in the arts without the overhead of school. And so we're doing cheap classes here. We've done a couple. You did one. I've done one, and we're gonna do it more. But I've been able to teach classes, and I've got I do it just basically like this online, and it's worked better than I thought it would. I didn't think it was going to work at all, right? I didn't think my Mount Sac classes were going to work this way at all, but people are adapting pretty well to this. It's something that I don't think could have been done 3 years ago. If had COVID-19 hit 3 years ago, I don't know what we'd be doing right now. I don't know what I'd be doing. I understand the chaos that's happening out there, even because it's hit now. But I don't know what I'd be doing in terms of education. But I think it's going to be a big part of all of my education, including the classes we're teaching here. Mm-hmm. What I want eventually, and by eventually I mean probably fall, is to have full roster of classes and work them by quarter. So we have beginning classes, intermediate, advanced, and then master classes, which you would normally get. And using professors who teach these classes. I've been talking to Grant Heyer about it. Grant is developing his own MFA at Laguna College of Arts and Designs, and he teaches MFA classes, and have him come in here and teach poetry. But then the great thing is, it doesn't have to be these. I can also use people who have a different perspective and wouldn't normally fit in very well with the academy.
Yeah.
But still would teach really effective classes and give you stuff that you wouldn't normally get. One of the complaints a lot of people have about their MFA programs is they get out of them and they have absolutely no clue about how to publish or make a living doing this, because that's sometimes neglected. I know some MFAs don't neglect that, but many do. And I'm not going to tell people that I'm going to make them some sort of superstar bestseller, but I can get them started publishing. Publishing is not a difficult thing, as long as you know just the basics, right? Mostly you just need to spend a lot of time doing it. And I've spent the last 30 years doing it. Mm-hmm. I can say, okay, we'll send this thing to that place. It's not hard.
So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from you, that a lot of the way that the internet, the way you're able to use the internet, a lot of what you're doing right now in this period of time where we're kind of quarantined, you intend to carry over as much as you can. But for those of us who do not intend, when life when things kind of resume, who do not intend to convert ourselves into some type of remote Grizzly Adams, what do you think is worth holding on to? I mean, because there are many things we're doing right now that are not possible but through the internet, right?
Yeah.
But we just don't make the time to because I'm not home. I'm at the bar. You're not home. You're at the ball game, et cetera, right? But there are things that we're doing right now. Distance doesn't really matter. We're able to connect with people in New York and Australia and Japan and Italy and El Salvador, Mexico, wherever all at once. But we never really taken advantage of that, that truth which pre-exists the pandemic, the way we are now. So, what do you think is worth hanging on to, even after this?
Well, like I'm just going to talk about my own experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
This weekend is supposed to be Culturama, which is the big festival at Mount Sac. Right now, I'm looking at the clock. Right now, I would be in the middle of our keynote address and uh, whatever. We can't do that because we don't want to kill people. So what we've done is we're moving it to November, and I think we're going to make it entirely. I know we're going to make it entirely online, but I think we're going to make it the month of November, right? And what I realized that's positive about this is that we can now, like people who have moved away. I think of my former student Kyle, who lives in Monterey. Now he can attend all these classes. What can I keep from that? Well, I think this idea of having an entire month of Culturama is a really good one, and having a lot of it remote is good. There's no reason not to have it be remote. There's no reason not to have it be kind of a month-long thing, and then maybe have some classes on one weekend that really bring people together. But it becomes a more tenable experience if it's that month-long thing. It makes it easier. Like frankly, it makes it easier on me because that weekend, I generally age. I'm only 25 right now, and I look like this, right? And I age so much during the week, and I go away. My friend Ken says I've got this sort of stare, just like that, as I walk around. But this way we can, I can take that and I can make it easier on me, make it possible for everybody to go to all events, make it possible that my say some of my teachers are in Africa. Wouldn't that be fantastic? We have an African teacher teaching this concept, things that my North American students would never imagine, right? Yeah, we can have this sort of. So I think if we treat it right, it can help to broaden what we're doing.
Yeah.
It can also like I think the face-to-face thing matters, but it doesn't have to be the only way that we do things. So we can reduce carbon footprints, right? You talk about reducing carbon footprint. Well, there's an easy way of doing that. Maybe we don't go into work every single day, right? Maybe we do a lot of work from home, and maybe some of the entertainment happens at home as opposed to going out and like you say, going to a bar or a baseball game or whatever. Maybe some of that is now here, right? I've there. I obviously don't like being quarantined, and I definitely don't like COVID-19, obviously. But there have been positive aspects to this. It's been really been a different lifestyle for me.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you think? What do you think we can take from this and go forward?
I really think the aspect. Okay, so like when you have like your classroom, something like that I don't know. Like if these are people you know from around the way, I mean, like you don't know your students, so you typically don't know the students coming in. But when we do these things that are sad imitations of our regular life, I think that you walk away feeling sad, right? You walk away like, oh, I missed them. I wish I could hug that person. So that's kind of inbuilt to the show or the production or the whatever you want to call it, to the event. It's inbuilt to the event. This like kind of walking away sad. But if you have an event where it's like you're bringing in people from all different places and all kinds of just where distance doesn't matter, and you may know the person, but like where distance doesn't matter, I think you walk away feeling energized. Like, why didn't we do this before, right? Look what's possible. So I think we need to emphasize when we do internet, we need to emphasize what is better about the internet, not what's worse, right? And so like that's where I think that those are the things worth holding on to, and those are things really worth doing right now. I mean, you still have your open mic, so you feel good, like your local open mic, so you feel good about yourself. But like maybe bring in an out of town feature, maybe bring something you could never have gotten otherwise. Maybe do that. I mean, emphasize what is better about the internet and not what makes you sad that we can't see each other. That's what I think we should be doing right now, and I think beyond that, that's what we should do when this is no longer the case. I think that's what we're doing. But I do have a question for you. The last time I saw you, you had much longer hair. Did you cut your own hair?
I have not been to a barber since 1991, and that's when my wife and I met, and she's been cutting my hair ever since, and so she cut this.
Okay,
Um,
it looks good.
yeah,
No,
she's great at it.
Anne,
Um,
Anne is a fine artist. No, there's no doubt about that.
yeah, I mean, I live with an artist, and
Yeah,
so sometimes if you can do a sculpture, I guess you can do hair.
yeah,
Um, the good thing for her is I'm getting balder and balder, so there's less and less to cut.
yeah. See, I figured you cut your own hair, and that's why you're wearing a hat.
No, I just finished exercising and it was all sweaty, so I put a hat to hide the fact that how
Yeah.
sweaty I
Well, I knew you were hiding something. I mean, one
was.
way or another, I knew I knew something was going on.
I think the weirdest series of events right before COVID hit.
Mm,
We moved to a place that increased. We went from a 200 square foot place to a 1,500 square foot place, which is I'm glad I'm not back there. Number two, we bought ourselves a treadmill. We bought finally we bought dishwasher and laundry. We never had that before, and like all those things have made life just amazing. So I'm like exercising inside and doing laundry instead of going to the laundromat and all that crap. It's fantastic, and I feel so incredibly lucky for that, having done that.
yeah, yeah. No, that's good. You know, things conspired in your favor in regard to
Yeah.
that. You are the author of several collections of poetry,
Uh-huh.
including another. I don't know how many books of literary theory you've put together, but I do know I am aware of at least one. Um, can you tell us a little bit about first about your poetry collections, and we'll talk about the other as well.
Okay, so the poetry collections. Most of them are collaborative because I really love working in collaboration with people, and I do that because uh, it's easy to get stuck in your own head and start becoming kind of ego centered, and it's also easy to start relying on the old tricks that you had, right? And so there's no growth in poetry. I'm not saying that about people who work by themselves. I'm saying that about me, right? And so I want to push away from all of that ego crap. Um, and there, so the poetry books, those poetry books, um, don't really have a philosophy or a point of view. They are allowed to grow organically out of the conversation I'm having with my writing partner. And so, like one of those is about Robert J. Oppenheimer and the fact of nuclear dread. So we actually had no clue. I had known this guy. He's a trauma psychotherapist. His name is Ken Johnson. And I just known him. We were talking about it, and we sat down one day and said, "Let's just write a book together." And we're gonna. I said, "Okay, well, what should we do?" We're in Southern California. Who is the philosopher of Southern California? We couldn't think of anybody who was right for what we were doing. So we said, well, maybe we don't want the philosopher. Maybe the true philosopher of our time was Oppenheimer, right? And he's making a statement. He's made several statements. But the biggest statement he made was in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which were pretty sickening statements. Um, and so we kind of it grew out of that kind of conversation. And all of those books that I've done in collaboration, and there's been 4 or 5 of those, have been like that. It's like let's not start with presuppositions. Let's allow this to grow organically out of this conversation. Um, Aside from that, what I really want to do is talk about this place where I live and or talk about the natural world, and usually both together. This place I live in the Inland Empire, right? And this, I've watched it change and grow in such a strange way over the last 40 years. This place, when I moved here in the 70s, felt very much. We moved to West Covina in the 1970s with my parents brought us here, and it felt very much like on the very edge of the city. Like there was you go to Claremont, and then beyond Claremont, there were just kind of these sparse communities going out to the desert. And now, the places where we used to go to shoot rockets or to my parents bought me a bow and arrow set, and I'd go shoot out in the middle of the desert. Those places are now like Ralph's. Those are places. And this place that was kind of destination for poverty is not that anymore. It's now McMansions and things, and I don't know how to think about that except for to put it into stories into poems. So I write about that a lot, and then I write about the forest, the natural world, or the desert, or just being. Um, The great thing that I love when people see a bear is I mentioned earlier there was kind of this hushed moment. Well, that hushed moment isn't the bear; it's the acknowledgement, the unconscious acknowledgement that the viewers has of they are not some nature is not this thing that's distant from them. They are part of this larger natural system, and that bear over there is part of the same system. It's not something I'm seeing in a zoo. Nobody goes to a zoo, for example, and you go over to the bear area, and when you see the bear, you go, right, and you stop and you just got like you can't believe what's happening. That happens every single time you see it in the wild, right? That's because in the zoo it's a controlled circumstance, and you are not a part of the same system, right? The bear's off there, he's in cage, whatever, and I'm allowed to go free. I've got my churro, and I've got my hat that I bought, and right, this is a different thing. In the forest, it becomes a spiritual thing. There's no spirituality in the zoo. There is definite spirituality, even though you know you're going to see it. If you go to a meadow in July, you'll see a bear in the high season, right? Because that's what they're doing.
Right.
Go to a berry patch in August, you'll see a bear, right? But it's no less spiritual once you do that, and it's no less spiritual to see a bear than it is to see a marmot, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, no, it's kind of funny. This recurring theme of bear. I actually, I have a discussion series that I do with a professor of sociology, and we talk about we're doing a book study of Capital by Marx, and there was a section called the commodity fetish, and he's talking about how all interactions are commercialized, but it's in very like jargon laden, like jargon from the jargon from the 19th century, laden way of expressing itself. So I try to make it simple. And so, well, essentially, like imagine you're outside a restaurant with a bear. Right now, you're hungry and the bear is hungry. Inside the restaurant, there's like a cashier, and behind that, there's the shorter cook, and there's a sandwich just lying there. Now, the bear will go, through the doors, past the cashier, go in the kitchen, and eat the sandwich. Now, the human being will go and grab a guitar, start singing some songs, try and get some money so that they can go inside and buy the sandwich. Because the human being is much smarter than the bear. I mean, all our interactions are so ridiculous. They're so absurd and so far removed from what we actually need to do. We're just
Yeah, right.
all our interactions between each other are so mitigated. There's so much that tramples upon our human interaction and prevents it from just being normal.
And it's misplaced concreteness, right? Money is not a thing. There's no physical reality to money. You can have a dollar, but that's not really money. Money is a concept, right? And so we all have to go out there and earn this concept somehow in order to get a bite to eat. And if there's somebody, and most people don't see most of their money, right? Most of it's just in some bank someplace. And this concept and this misplaced concreteness is so powerful. We're perfectly happy to let people starve if they have not earned this false notion.
Right.
And it's just it's insane. It's just.
But the bear is hungry. The bear will eat if it can. Whereas we
Yeah. Here's another thing. Animals in the wild who are battling for resources aren't very violent. They'll battle. Then I get the resource. Okay, it's over. We go to different points. Battles in the wilds who are battling for social dominance are very violent and will destroy each other because all there is the moment when they stand and the blood of the victim, right?
So what are these animals that battle for stature and status?
The animals battling for sexuality, that sort of thing. So like a bighorn sheep will just over and over again, whereas a bear. It's really interesting what happens when you see a bear. Now I'm back to bears. I don't know what the hell. But like a bear will you'll chase a bear out, and a bear will run for a while and turn around and it'll look at you, and it looks like oh, should I fight? And that's not what he's doing. He's saying, okay, am I far out enough, boss? Can I have that bush? I want that bush. There's food in that bush. And then you say, go away. It's like, damn it. He goes back a little, looks back at you. That's a typical sort of thing. It's like, okay, you're dominant, but that doesn't mean you get the entire forest. How much of the forest can I have? And it becomes very, very, very easy that way. Or if you see a deer going at it, they'll be very violent and very bloody, and finally one of them will get a sexual partner. But without that,
So we've expressed this like several times now. Deers are more violent than bears. So you,
Yeah.
yeah, but we're the most violent of all. So like let's not judge the deer so harshly.
Yeah, we're the assholes of the animal kingdom, aren't
Yeah.
we? Nobody else goes out and shoots for fun.
Mm. So tell us about the book of writing theory, or if there are more, tell us more.
Yeah, well, the one they usually do is the gift of form, and the idea that that's a book about formal poetry,
Mhm.
and the idea that is a lot of people when they're starting off approach formal poetry completely wrong, and they end up with really really unsatisfying poems. I don't know if you have this, like you're trying to shoehorn an idea into a rhyme scheme, like it doesn't work. Let me just write free verse. Well, free verse is no less formal than formal poetry, but it's just a different way of approaching, right? If you get an idea, you want to write that idea, that's a free verse poem.
Mhm.
If, however, you have a word and you're hoping that the poem will give you a poem, the poem form will give you a poem, that's a formal poem, right? So I could take a word, I could put it anywhere in my sonnet, and it's going to give me a sonnet sort of poem, right? So that's my um, and so like the sonnet is designed to draw ideas out of you that you didn't know you had. If you approach it with saying, I want to write this poem, you'll never get that poem. If you approach it saying, I want this sonnet to give me a poem, you'll get a satisfying poem. And sometimes you end up not getting a sonnet from there. You totally mess up. And when you mess up, what you get is a pretty good free verse poem, right? There's no loss here. It's just it doesn't fit the form, right? It does. It gave you the gift of the form, which is to give you an idea
Yeah.
to write about, right? So like I usually start about halfway through a sonnet,
Yeah.
and like I'll see it like I don't know what I'll see. I'll see a train or something. I'll make a train poem. Um, uh, there's a danger in doing a train poem because there's like 150 years of train poetry out there, right? And I don't want to write the train poem of 1953. I want to write the train poem of 2020, right? It's a different thing,
Yeah.
and so it's a different reality. And so like I don't want to be caught up in that stuff, and that's a really great place for a sonnet because the sonnet's going to give me that new poem, right? Um, and so what would I write about if I? Well, I guess I'm not doing. But I live like right next to the train tracks in Ontario, right on Holt and Euclid. And at night, sometimes I'll go outside and I'll look, just kind of look, have the deep thoughts that you get when you stare out your window into the sky. But I'll see people running along the train tracks, right? And I don't know what they're doing. It's none of my business either. But I find it interesting that people are, maybe this is a shortcut or something. I don't know. People are running along there. I see it fairly often. It must be some sort of traffic corridor for a certain group of people. But I don't know what group of people this is. Could be train engineers. I don't know. Could be local residents. Maybe there's a hamburger place on the other side of Euclid that like really popular. Maybe it's just people going over there. I don't know what it is. But anyway, I find that would be my poem probably. What is that poem about? I don't know yet. It's buried in my subconscious someplace, and
I,
the sonnet's going to pull it out.
I guarantee you a bear is going to show up at some point.
Yeah, no, they very often do. Uh,
Oh man. Well, John, where can people find your work? Where can people connect to California Imagism and all the other wonderful things that you're doing right now?
California Imagism Gallery. We have a gallery that the website is californiaimagismgallery.com.
And we'll
And
drop
right,
it below.
yeah, can I type it someplace?
You can type it on. I mean, you can send it to me, or you can type it down there yourself in the thread comment.
Okay. And right now we're doing a poetry prompt every day, trying to write some imagistic poetry to make us a little bit more mindful, get through this thing a little bit better. And it's usually nature poetry. Right now, we're doing 6 days of plants. I think we're on day 3 right now. And it's like top of the tree, bottom of the tree, that kind of thing. And but you can also, I'm also on that page. I help people publish. So you can take a look at my publishing page, and it just gives you a schedule, what to look at when, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then if we have any classes coming up, I'll have that. We will definitely have classes coming up, but I had to up my office hours from 4 hours a week to 25 hours a week, just to work with my students because it was just like they're having a hard time. As a lot of people are having a hard time. So it'd probably be until summer until we've restarted our classes in the gallery.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say I really agree with you with the gift of form thing. I mean, like, I think that one of the most challenging things to write is you're trying to figure out how and what at the same time, right? And
Hmm.
if you have one of those questions answered for you, it's a lot easier to proceed with the other. Like you know what you want to write about. Okay, now he's got to figure out how. What are some of the patterns and structures I'm going to use? You don't know what you're going to write about? Well, okay, I got this pattern and structure I can use. Then all of a sudden you're bored. And trying to figure out how and what at the same time is like getting a computer, like multiple commands, just freezes your brain.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I did the 3 act poem. And that's what the whole concept is, breaking that apart.
Three act poem really does that thing, right? Because it's like, okay, well, I don't know what I want to write today, but I know that I saw I saw somebody standing in the rain the other day at a bus stop, completely soaking wet. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. Right? And three act poem can help draw that thing out. Who is that person? What is that person doing? And
Yeah.
really, any form can do that. And uh, that's why I love it.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. John Brantingham. Only the 3 act poem. No other form can do that for you.
That's exactly what I said.
It's exactly what you said. All right, John. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure we'll be working together in the future, the very near future.
Absolutely. We're gonna have you teach more classes, I hope.
I hope so too. We'll talk soon.